All right, we're here in preparation for the async communication Q2KR for training across the Verify stage. And hi, Joanna, thank you for being here.
Hey, Jackie.
The deck for this is a collection of several links that are in our handbook page. And I just wanted to offer a place for people to ask questions about how to keep issues up to date and to kind of go through the 7 best practices of using issues. So first off, I'll go ahead and share my screen just so that we have context for people who may be joining later. As a general premise, we use issues across the Verify stage for product proposals, process improvements, and there are several key things that allow us to use issues more effectively in the Verify stage and across GitLab. One of them is that it's everyone's responsibility to keep the issue description up to date and to use that as a single source of truth. Not just the product manager or the product designer or the EM, but once you have a comment and if there's something to change back in the issue description, especially during waiting or planning breakdown, it's really important to integrate that information back into the issue description because when people come to that issue as a community member or as a customer or user, they need to see what our up-to-date latest proposal is for that scope. We also take advantage of using blocks, blocked, and related relationships across issues to understand sequencing for planning. Again, this is about creating a most transparent and communicative environment around using issues for product proposals. And directly from the handbook, I wanted to highlight that when we're closing an issue, leaving a comment and giving an update on what happened, because sometimes issues get closed without it being released to production. We don't move forward with proposals, so it's important to give that context. And then of course, it's important to be consistent with communication, especially when it comes to external stakeholders. If you're sometimes validating if a bug still works or not with a particular user as an engineering manager or as an engineer directly in the Verify stage, sometimes it's helpful to keep a regular cadence up to that communication. Other best practices are making sure that you're using discussions in merge request and issues rather than relying on Slack. One of the beautiful things about async communication is that if you're using issues in merge requests, you don't have to worry about being interrupted outside of your normal work time because you're relying on Slack to do a lot of that coordination of product proposals or issue delivery. You're not expected to be available by default, so if you can create more space for yourself by relying on issues and merge requests to contain all of that discussion, you're doing yourself a favor by creating more time and not relying on the synchronicity of Slack. And then of course, consistency in using issues as a way to communicate out to the customers, the community, to users of GitLab, and keeping those issues refined and weighted allows them to contribute to those issues effectively. If the scope is unclear or the issues don't have a proposal or they're not weighted, then they can't easily contribute back to that. Which also means leveraging things like issue templates, which allows you to structure issues in a way that's consistent across different kinds of scope. That allows people to easily look at something familiar and understand what they're going to be working on if they're contributing as an outside to GitLab internal teammates. So some examples of issue update scenarios are when you're going back and forth on an issue about designs and technical proposals, a change is made and the engineering manager goes on ahead and updates the technical proposal. Or another example is when product managers are adding labels and updating refinement based off of the planning breakdown cycle and moving it into ready for development. Other states may be when an engineer realizes that they have to change scope in their implementation with an MR, going back and updating the issue description once they've implemented that change in the product is really helpful, again, for that transparency and that communication out to users. That really wraps up all of the async communication, issue refinement, best practices, and review of what we want to do in the Verify stage. Do you have any questions?
Yeah. So would you suggest like updating the description when you have made the comment? Like what is the best practice for, like when we should be updating?
Yeah, so that's a great question. Usually it's when a decision's been made on like a go forward proposal as you're moving it out of planning breakdown into ready for development. So we expect the proposals to change a lot in the comments. But once you have a decision made, that should be translated up back into the issue proposal description section so that people are aware of what's happening in progress at that decision point. Sometimes it helps to add like a comment and then the proposal that like we're reviewing this proposal in technical detail and link to the comment thread that's specific to that proposal section so that again people can self-shop what's the status of that issue and where they're going with that scope.
Cool. And then I guess along similar lines, like once the workflow planning breakdown is complete, we should still feel free like to update.
Exactly. Just because it's in ready for development, say that we learn something new after a different features release that impacts that feature, it's important to update that proposal if it's going to change the implementation. So you're absolutely right that as things are fluid in our product, it's important to keep that up to date. You're absolutely right.
Awesome.
Okay. Well, thank you so much. Do you have anything else? I think
I guess like not related to like the issue hygiene per se, but like do you have any tips on like how you keep track of all of the requests, you know, that you like all of the issues that get pinged on? Like how are you tracking those?
Yeah, that's a really great question. So I'm personally like an inbox zero individual. So I try to prune all of my to-dos before the end of the day so that I have either myself assigned to an issue in MR if it requires further follow-up, or the to-do has been resolved and I don't have anything to do else on that issue or merge request. I would say you're absolutely right that it can be a lot. I took off last week and I came back and I had over like 250 to-dos that I had to like action. And then of course I had plenty of emails that were related to issues that I'm subscribed to that people are just engaging on that didn't have a direct ping to me. And that's important to be watching those. But I find it really helpful to like triage your issues based off of the most important people that you need to be responding to. So typically every morning, right when I start and boot up GitLab, I check the to-dos for the engineering team and the engineering manager on my team to make sure that they're completely unblocked first. And then I go to product leadership. And then finally, I address any other pings that are outside of that. And that helps me kind of get through the most important people, most important scope first, and then I can deal with other issues.
Awesome. I love it. Thank you.
Yeah, you bet. Awesome. Well, thank you, Joanna.
Cool.
I'll go ahead and stop the recording.
Cool.